Well, good morning, folks. May 26th, 1995, Island Highway, Campbell River. I suppose by now you have all listened to the information on the military report that was written on May 14th about the disastrous happenings in some of the care homes that the military were called in to assist with. And it's interesting, you know, it's been a problem that's been going on for a long, long time. If you haven't seen the report, I'll put a link to a mediocre one in the bottom. I haven't found the full report yet. That's easily printable. I think the governments and bureaucrats are all trying to do their spin before it's totally released to us, so we can read it for ourselves. But this one, you can read it. It's just, you can enlarge it and read it. And again, I'll put a link to that. As I say, this isn't new. You know, years ago, a friend of mine whose mom lived in a lodge, he came into town to visit her, and she had bed sores and a lot of situations going on. And as he started to complain and tried to straighten things through, it's amazing how medical people and the bureaucracy all sort of really climbed down all around him for trying to rock the boat. So it's been a situation that's there. A lot of people bury their relatives in a home expecting the best and not really paying attention. So I think we're all sort of to blame. If you got a senior relative, parent, grandparent, relative, or friend in a home, check in on them, keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, and don't be complacent. You know, and it's not just the street people. We have the special needs people. I shouldn't say not just the home, the people in the senior care homes. It's the street people, the homeless, the special needs people. The same care aides that look after the seniors look after the special needs people as well, and some of them do a great job, and there's just a lot of mediocrity in there as well. I was next from the coffee shop over the last 15 years. For 5 years of the 15, we were right next to a college that turned out cookie-cutter care aides. And so I'm speaking, I talked to a lot of them and observed a lot. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But take care of your relatives. Check on them. And same with street people. You know, you have young social workers working on their social work degree. They're now social workers working for us, and we get into that debate a lot, that we leave people addicted, mentally ill, sick on the street, and we don't try to bring them into care. And she said, well, you can't. It's against the human rights. It's against the law to detain somebody. And so that's sort of a cop-out. That's an excuse that we all use. You don't see it, you don't know about it, well, it doesn't exist. And one thing I suppose that's positive about the craziness that we're in right now with this Wuhan waltz is that it's sort of shining a light in some of those things. The responsibility is now to do something about it, and don't be bleeding hearts about just leaving people on the street cold, wet, sick, and addicted, and saying we can't do anything about it. We can if we have a mind to it. I remember when the mental institutions were closing down in British Columbia, in Essendale, I have an aunt who was one of the head RNs there. And she was really distraught. She said, what's going to happen to all these people? She said, it's just going to be a disaster for them. And of course, they sort of filtered through back into small communities and then left the small areas to look after them. Some congregate into the cities like Vancouver's East End, or like Victoria is right now. Yeah, it's horrendous, and we're supposed to be a caring society, and our Prime Minister really tries to come out of his bedroom and really acknowledge that we care about people here. We only care about people when it's politically correct. But anyway, that's about all for now. I'm going to put links to that military report. One of the young social workers who worked with us when she was on a ride-about with the RCMP, that was part of her education, one of the officers had suggested she watch Streets of Plenty. and it was a documentary done in the East Side in Vancouver before the big celebrations there. And she shared it with me, and I looked at it. And of course, one thing with the documentary, you have to remember, it's what they want you to see, that the lens is sort of pointed at a specific thing. But I found it eye-opening and really, really interesting. If I can find the link to that, it used to be on YouTube, I'll put that on as well. Not everybody maybe will have the courage to watch stuff like that, because we just, again, if you don't know about it, it doesn't exist, right? So that's about all for now. Like I say, it's in a sense a sad day, you know, to read that military report. But it's something I think most of us already knew was happening and just were turning a blind eye to. So as a country, we're all involved in this and all to blame, and I don't think we should just sort of mosey along and forget about it. And not just the seniors, think about mentally, the mental issues on the street, the homeless people on the street, the people who just have a lot of issues who we just sort of abandon out there. We should quit being bleeding hearts about it. And if a person doesn't know who they are, where they are, what they're doing, why leave them on the street? Let's take them into care, get their nutrition up, and try to help them. Well, it costs money, and that's why we're not doing it, I suppose. That's why we emptied out local institutions. And yeah, we're a civilized country. It's interesting, like I mentioned, in the social work, at least in ages past, they used to chain people in caves. At least they were out of the weather. Here we just leave them in the rain and the wind and the snow and sleeping on the streets, not knowing who they are, where they are. Now, don't get me wrong, some people are on the street because they want to be. I've met a lot of philosophical people out there who aren't addicted, aren't mentally ill, they just dropped out of society. And that's for another video. There were some interesting people. And yeah, like I say, for our country, this is really, just not a cool day. And when you look, I watched our ministers, you know, dance around it and just sort of try to cover their asses. It's sort of like, well, what do you expect? And one thing you have to point out is that in our senior citizen homes, there's licensed medical professionals attend there. Not all the time, but they do go there. Doctors, nurses. Where have they been all this time? I mean, they're trained to sort of see things like that. But anyway, I'll leave that at that. It's enough said. It's, the report speaks for itself. And bye for now. We'll see you.